Hey there, thank you for listening to SideQuest Enthusiast episode 3. Just want to give you a heads up that the audio quality in this episode isn't that great for reasons beyond my control. But hey, wanted to get the episode out before MLK Day ended because it is an MLK themed episode. We're also going to talk about Super Mario 3D World and 2021 predictions for Nintendo. So stay tuned, or tune in, I guess, for that. Thanks for being forgiving. Say a prayer for your ears. Just kidding, it's not that bad.
Come to me, Dark Warriors. Battle awaits us.
Welcome to the SideQuest Enthusiast, the gaming podcast about the quests we play to be who we are. I'm your host, Kyle B. Hiller. That's all it really is. But we are here today, episode 3, coming at you with the first episode of 2021. And of course, we got to look at 2021 with predictions. We got a lot of anniversaries to talk about this year, y'all. But also, we're going to dive into Super Mario 3D World a little bit because that's dropping in about a month. Also, we got some dope trailers from it as well this past week. So we're going to talk about that. And also, today is Martin Luther King Day, so we got to do a little bit of reflecting. So thank you, though, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We're just going to dive right in here. I hope y'all are doing good. It's been a wild year so far, which, it's kind of funny when you think about that because it's like, it's always a wild year. It's been a wild year in America for the longest time. And that, to me, is something we really need to think about that, but we're going to dive into that later. But it's going to be a wild year, too, for gaming. Because you want to know why? We have everybody's franchise and their grandma has an anniversary this year. And I don't know if you saw the tweet that was going around that had a list of all the anniversaries that are coming up this year. We got to start Pokemon, turns 25 real soon. I think that's going to be Pokemon Day is next month in February, I believe. I'd have to double check that. But 25 years of Pokemon. That is wild. I remember the first day that I played Pokemon, or not even the first day that I played Pokemon, but I remember the first time I watched when the TV show premiered on TV. I remember it so vividly. It was a Labor Day Monday when it debuted here, at least locally for me. I don't know how that worked back in 96, 97 when that show debuted. And I was in love with it from the very beginning. I almost feel like I need to rewatch the very first episode of Pokemon again because that thing was just dripping with nostalgia for me right now. And it was such a big moment because there was a time in life before Pokemon, right? And I think another anniversary for Pokemon is Pokemon Go turns 5 years old this year, and I think that is when the Pokemon phenomenon really took a whole another level, right? 2016 was a crazy year for, many reasons, but also I just remember Pokemon Go being so integral too for me. I remember where I was when I first played Pokemon Go, when it finally dropped. And there's rumors that we might be getting Diamond and Pearl ported to the Switch, and that would be dope. It's been a while since I really played any of the mainline Pokemon games. I played Sun and Moon on DS, on 3DS, and I had a great time with it. But I also know that Diamond and Pearl is definitely one of the ones that I also tried to play. I have Diamond on 3DS. Didn't really play it that much though, because it felt like more the same. I've been removed from Sun and Moon long enough, but I bought Diamond um, right after I played Sun and Moon. So it was just like more of the same with that game. And the Pokemon games really haven't deviated much, and that's not me complaining. Because I really don't want the Pokemon games to really deviate that much, because I think the whole thing is that when you look at Pokemon having been 25 years, so many things have happened since 25. That game debuted on the original Game Boy when it was kind of making its way over to Game Boy Color, right? Which is when we got. I don't even think Silver and Gold they were they had features for the Game Boy Color, but they were originally made for the Game Boy, which is wild. And there's so many people that never got to play Pokemon at first 25 years ago, because a lot of people just are 25 years old. So Diamond and Pearl was the first Pokemon game for a lot of people. That came out 15 years ago in Japan, which is also celebrating its anniversary, obviously. So that's going to be low key a great year for Pokemon, and Nintendo has so many other franchises that are just on the brink of these anniversaries. We got quite a bit with Super Mario, right? 35th anniversary. We got 3D All Stars. We're getting 3D World coming to the Switch, which we're going to talk about later. But also, we got Zelda. We got Metroid. Smash Bros. Melee turns 20 years old this year. The GameCube turns 20 this year. Golden Sun turns 20 this year. Kid Icarus is 35. Donkey Kong is 40. The Wii celebrates 15 years, which is kind of crazy. The Wii and the Wii U feel so much further away than they actually are. 15 years is not that long, and the Wii U was 7 years or 8 years ago when it dropped. 9 years ago, 2012. I keep thinking we're still in 2020, which, to me, 2021 is just 2020 part 2. But, it is what it is. And then we also had the 3DS that dropped 10 years ago. So, and the Nintendo 64 turns 25 this year. And that's a lot to celebrate. That's a lot of legacy titles. And you're going to see so much this year from Nintendo. I really do believe that. This is going to be one of the best years Nintendo has ever had, period. I feel like they have so much in the works. I think that's why they've been so silent. I know they were really silent last year, given COVID and all that other stuff. So it's kind of hard for them to really be like, hey, look, we're doing all these things, because you don't really know how the day-to-day is going to keep operating, and we don't really know what their rigmarole is as far as putting these games out and staying in development and keeping up to date with all the things that are holding them back with COVID. But what's ended up happening is that everything is landing on this year. 2021, we're going on to the fourth or so year of the Switch. I think came out in 2017. Now it's 2021, about 4 years later, and there's so much to be said, because now that so many developers within Nintendo and third party have a really good grasp of what the Switch is capable of, we know we're going to get a new iteration of the Switch. We know we are. That's just Nintendo's bread and butter. They put out a system and then there's some sort of iteration of it. Look at how many versions of the DS we had. Look at how many versions of the Game Boy we had. They're so good at making handheld consoles, right? So they would be silly to not iterate off of this. The Nintendo Switch is someone who loves their Super Nintendo so much and still plays it from time to time. And that was such a formative experience for me. The Switch is probably my favorite Nintendo console of all time. No cap. And I feel very confident in saying that because we have Super Nintendo games on the Switch. And I think a lot of people, and I want to get into this later when we start talking about 3D World, but we got to stop talking about, in the same way that we need to stop talking about console wars, we need to stop talking about how a console has a lot of ports, because I think that's an accessibility thing, right? There's so many games that we can't play because we can't buy them. They're not available anymore. If you're looking into emulation, they're hard to get your hands on now. ROMs are so hard to find these days. Not that I'm looking for them, because I don't emulate, because I'm a good person. It's like, just kidding. I'm not going to admit one way or another to that. But I would love to introduce people who are just now getting into gaming, especially now being in quarantine. Hey, here are some new games that are coming out, and here's some classics too. And I think being able to explore that with people on a console like the Switch that is so accessible, you just pick that thing up, and bam, it's there. Nintendo Switch Online, just double click there, bang, it's there. And that's a great thing for people, because not everyone wants to figure out how they're going to hook up their Super Nintendo to play A Link to the Past. If you even have it, and do you have the right things for it? Do your controllers still work? Does your card still work? Does it actually keep the saves? That's so many things that you just have to worry about that just makes video games like this so inaccessible. And that's why I'm really excited about these anniversary collections that we might be getting from Nintendo with Pokemon, and even maybe with Zelda and Metroid. I think we're definitely going to get something about those, right? And We got it with Mario. We got to get something here with Pokemon and Zelda and Metroid. And I think I really want to see some ports of Zelda games and Metroid games coming in because there's a lot of things that I miss, and I'm like the biggest Zelda fan, or one of the biggest Zelda fans ever. So let's talk about Zelda real quick, right? Like, what could we possibly see from Zelda? Zelda turns 35 on February 21st, 2021, which is also my 35th birthday. And I'm going to be mad hype about that. I'm definitely going to be streaming some Zelda on there. Check it out, twitch.tv/SQEcast. Self this promo. But Zelda, what do we not have on the Switch right now? There's so many of the Game Boy games that we don't have. We got Link's Awakening as a remake, which is dope. So we're not going to see that, right? But I think Nintendo is going to start putting out some Game Boy Color and or Game Boy Advance stuff. I think we could possibly see the Oracle games coming to the Switch. The Oracle games are, they're tricky. They've got some great puzzles in them and stuff like that. And I think they're great games, but I would love to see them on a platform like the Switch for people to explore because those were such great games, and those were Nintendo developed Zelda games. Those were made by Capcom, and I think between the Oracle games and when you look at a game like Majora's Mask, which also doesn't really, they have the 3D remake of Majora's Mask on the 3DS. Those three games right there were one of the first deviations we saw in the Zelda series, right? Because up until then we had, well, Link's Awakening was a deviation in a way too, as far as the story was, but the formula was still pretty much the same. But Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, they were so different. And you're starting to see that happen again with deviation to Zelda in a good way. Because I think with Ocarina of Time, fantastic game. Again, another thing that I just remember playing for the first time, just the magic of that game. Majora's Mask was so different. Having come out 2 or 3 years after, using the same game engine, but better graphics and just a different kind of gameplay, and focusing so heavily on the side quests and the people in the towns and all that stuff was just such a big departure from Zelda, but also still felt familiar because a lot of these characters were, familiar in the sense that they were similar to the characters you saw in Hyrule, right? So let's get those games on Switch. Let's get Majora's Mask on Switch. Let's get the Game Boy games on Switch. I would love to see Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, and I would love to see Minish Cap on there because Minish Cap, that was a Game Boy Advance game, and that dropped in 2004. Another Capcom developed game. I missed that game because it was 2004. I was in college. I didn't have any money to buy my own games. My Game Boy Advance was left at home. I just kind of missed the Zelda game there. And I finally played it on Wii U because it's available on Virtual Console. And that's a great Zelda game. I mean, the puzzles were so great, as far as just like turning yourself into this little minion or whatever, and navigating these worlds that were, normal size when you were just regular little Link, and then just kind of seeing how this world, when you are the tiny one and you're just navigating all this, it was just really innovative in its own way, and that was great. So seeing that too on the Switch, I think would be great because I think you're going to see a lot of the handheld games be the next thing for Nintendo Switch Online. I know a lot of people are clamoring for N64 or GameCube. I don't think Nintendo's going to go there yet because I think there's so many other things that happened with the N64 that would make porting those games much more difficult, especially when you just look at the form factor. Look at the controller for the N64. There's just certain allocation of all the buttons and button mapping that I think is going to make porting a lot of those games difficult. I also think there's probably a lot of licensing issues that comes with the N64 and all that stuff, but I think we're going to see some Game Boy games. I think we're going to see some handheld Zelda games. In a perfect world, though, if we don't get that, which I think we're not going to get all the Zeldas, that's for sure, because they're going to have to save something for your 40, or they're going to have to save something for the new Switch. But Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD were on Wii U. I played through Twilight Princess over again on the Wii U. Originally had it on GameCube. And I know it's not everyone's favorite. It does have a special place in my heart, personally. as does Wind Waker. And I would love to see those games on there too. We definitely need some Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the Switch, because those were, especially Wind Waker. I think Wind Waker is much more beloved, even though when it first came out, it was much aligned for its, quote unquote, cartoony graphics, because everybody wanted what Twilight Princess was, but even better. They wanted it to look like that. And Nintendo was going in a totally different direction as far as their art style. And realizing that it wasn't going to be how photorealistic Zelda looked that made Zelda impressive, it was style, right? When you see Wind Waker and you look at even Skyward Sword, compare that to Breath of the Wild 2, you see your origin story there. You see something with Minish Cap as well, just reinforcing it, and seeing how that works. And then the other DS Zelda games as well reiterated that. I don't think we're going to get the DS Zelda games, because you can still get those games on the DS. I think there's still some people in the world who are still playing their DSs, for sure. So I don't think we're going to get those yet, but I definitely think it's a good possibility we can see the Game Boy games from Zelda, and also the Wii games from Zelda. Or not Wii, GameCube. So Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Minish Cap. Those are my bets. So it all remains to be seen, and I'm going to talk a lot about Zelda on this show, because obviously Zelda is very near and dear to me. It's the reason why I'm a gamer in the first place. But we're going to see something from Nintendo real soon. I don't know that they're going to say anything on their anniversary date. I think they're going to make some sort of announcement in February about Zelda, but I don't know that we're going to get a full direct or anything like that. But I think something is going to have to happen for that date. That is such a huge milestone for them to just go completely silent would be kind of on Nintendo's brand, but I don't think they're going to let this one pass by. I think Mario was a little bit more difficult, because Mario doesn't really have a solid, concrete release date. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that. And then there's the whole talk about Breath of the Wild 2, right? Are we getting it this year? I'm just going to keep this real simple. Yes. We're absolutely going to get Breath of the Wild 2. It's going to be paired with whatever the new iteration of Switch is. I think you're still going to be able to play Breath of the Wild 2 on your original OG Switch, for sure. But I think it's going to be enhanced in some way, in the same way that the Wii version of Twilight Princess had some high enhancements from the GameCube version, but not necessarily major ones, because the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild, which I think a lot of people forget, that was a Wii U game originally and then ported to the Switch. Not a lot going on there as far as enhancements. I'm not exactly sure you're going to see a lot of enhancements with Breath of the Wild 2 going from Switch to Switch Pro, whatever it's going to be called. But I do think there are going to be some things here and there that are going to be different, because I think they're going to have to say that, hey, here's our flagship title for this new iteration. This is why it's different. And this is what makes those two things different. You can still keep your Switch and play all these games, because it's going to take a couple of years before a lot of developers are able to use the Switch in the way that they want to use it, and exploit it for just what it can really do. But I think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming in November this year. And it's going to come with whatever the new Switch is. So put your money on it, y'all. You probably did not hear it here first, but I'm re-emphasizing it again, because we're going to be covering Zelda quite a bit this year. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I think also, as far as the other franchises, we're obviously already getting Pokemon Snap this year, which was one of the last games I rented from Blockbuster Video on N64. So that's going to be dope. They dropped a new trailer. It's coming out in April. April 30th, I believe, is the date. It's going to be a great year for Pokemon. But I think it's going to be generally quiet. Outside of Pokemon Snap and the port of Diamond and Pearl, we're not going to get that much more. We might get some Amiibo here and there, but who knows? April 30th. I was right. So, yeah. But the Metroid Prime Trilogy collection, it's set. It's ready to go. They're just kind of waiting. They're waiting until Prime 4 is closer to being ready. Who knows when that's going to be? So yeah, this is going to be a huge year for Nintendo. It's going to be a huge year for video games. And I couldn't be more excited to be a gamer right now. We're going to take a quick break. Let me know on social media what you think is going to happen with the anniversary celebrations this year with Pokemon, Zelda, and Metroid. We're going to pause right here and we're going to come back and talk about Super Mario 3D World coming to Switch. Holy crap, I'm super excited. We'll be right back. Here on SQE. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Super Mario 3D World. Let's talk about this, right? Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury is a game that's coming to Switch on February 12th of this year, 2021. This was originally a Wii U game that came out in 2013, and this is an interesting game. I'm super excited about it. I think I'm actually more hyped about this than I am with Mario than I was with Mario Odyssey. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I didn't buy a Switch until Smash Ultimate came out the next year, and it had already been a year. I ended up playing Mario Odyssey. I really liked it. I had a good time with it, but I didn't like it the way that I loved Mario 64 or a lot of. And I'm a pretty big Mario gamer. I'm realizing I just think they're just good video games, and I've been kind of itching for something in the Mario universe. I've been playing a lot of Mario Maker, but this is different. And I think my introduction to the whole Super Mario 3D was with 3D Land on 3DS, and that game in itself too felt a lot like this setting precedent for what was to come from Mario. And while we had something like Mario 64, Mario Galaxy, Mario Sunshine, it almost felt like they were able to manage to fuse both the 3D platforming adventure elements of those games and put it with the 2D side-scrolling platforming elements of what you expect from Mario. And that marriage right there introduced a whole lot of ideas, right? That's where we got Cat Mario with 3D World on Wii U. And that was one of my favorite new power-ups. And it's not often we get a Mario power-up that's just new and refreshing and just really cool. I really enjoyed it because it's like with the Super Leaf and the Super Feather from Mario 3 or Mario World, those were along some of my favorite power-ups. But it's been a minute because we got the Super Bell and Cat Power, and that's where it's at. It's super adorable. I love how you can climb walls and do Soldier Boy Superman jumps over things. It's crazy. And I think with Mario 3D World, go check out the trailers. It's on YouTube. Nintendo dropped 2 trailers last week. And I think you see elements of Mario Odyssey in this game, obviously. So whatever Mario Odyssey became in 2017, they were already working on that via the Super Mario 3D World. Because Nintendo does this. They draft up a whole bunch of ideas for a game, hundreds probably. And these ideas for new game mechanics, new items, new ideas, period. Just all these things. And they draft up a whole bunch of ideas and they discard most of them. And they keep those things they're not even discarded. They're just put aside, right? And then you'll see a lot of those good ideas come back, which is why they really play their cards close to their chest in this. Because what ends up happening is, hey, here's this thing that we thought we wanted to do for this game. Let's bring it back for this game. And I think there's a lot of things that got thrown away with 3D World that we saw in Odyssey. And that's why those two games kind of look familiar, especially with Bowser's Fury, which is the new addition to it. So it's not necessarily just a port, but we're getting something new. And with that, we're going to see. It's going to be interesting to play 3D World, having played Mario Odyssey first. I played a little bit of 3D World. A friend of mine had it, and we played some of it on just the local multiplayer. And I had a good time with it, but I kind of wish I got to spend more time with it. And I think it's going to be cool when we see Bowser's Fury and seeing what they're doing with, really trying to reinvent this Fury Bowser, right? And we got Giga Cat Mario, aka Super Saiyan Cat Mario. Bowser Jr. is helping out. Like, what's all going on here? And they're using the whole paintbrush, to reveal secrets within the level with the second player with Bowser Jr. And that's really cool. And that's kind of giving me some Mario Odyssey vibes. It's also kind of giving me some Paper Mario vibes too. So this intersection of ideas, I'm not even mad at it. I love it. I love that they're just taking these ideas and not just rehashing them, but reiterating them and reinventing them and bringing them to the table in such a way that feels new, but also familiar at the same time. And that's why I really, really have a soft spot for Mario games, because for me, it's again, the first games I got to play were Mario World and Legend of Zelda and Mario Kart. And when you see Mario Kart and you see Mario World, those two games couldn't be any more different, right? But at the same time, there is that feeling of this is what Mario is. It's just fun. It's fun, and I feel like I'm kind of missing that in games right now. I've been playing way too many games that are just like straight up serious business, but I'm looking forward to 3D World. It's going to be. I'm going to stream the mess out of this game. I'm going to play it with you know all the people that I play games with. It's like, hey, listen, I'm buying that game day one. Be ready. I'm sending you an invite to play this game. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to this. I urge everyone who is looking to get back into some throwback Mario type games, check it out. And we're going to check it out on the streams. Probably play some multiplayer as well. And it's going to be a good time. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. After this quick break, we've got some reflecting to do because it is MLK Day. We'll be back. So let's cue SideQuest Enthusiast. When I think about last year, and I think about all the things that were happening in the summer, with all the protests and people seeking out social change and racial justice, and that's not new for sure. And I think a lot of people will get it confused that the last 4 years have been so tough, and I'm like, well, yeah, they have, but I think they're a culmination of what's been happening for the last 400 years in this country. And it's so important that we dispel the miseducation that's happening within America, right? Because I think, when you look at the civil rights movement from, the 50s and 60s and so on, so much of it was just understanding that, hey, look, Black people in this country did not get the things that they needed after emancipation in order to be who they wanted to be. They didn't have the resources. They were told to, like MLK said, how are you going to be able to pick yourself up by your bootstraps if you don't have the boots, if you're bootless? You know what I mean? And that phrase always resonates with me. And I spend some time over the MLK weekend every year. And, make sure I revisit it over the course of the year too. But I spend a lot of time reflecting at this time of year. What are we doing right now to implement change from within? And I think a lot of that has to do with change begins when we start looking at what we've been taught, because what we've been taught is a whole bunch of BS, man. There's been a lot of misleading concepts and around this idea of independence and freedom that just don't seem to hit well with people, especially now. When things are so much more visible now than what they were 50, 60 years ago. The information is there. We have access to it. People talk about how terrible things are with social media and stuff, but it's just like, I've learned so much about Black history from the people I follow on Twitter and Instagram alone that I learned more from that than I did anything in school. And I went to school for how many years? You know what I mean? From preschool all the way up through college, 5 years of it. I feel like I didn't learn a damn thing about Black history and what Black history really was. Right? And I'm still learning every day. Every day, I'm learning something new, or I'm trying to seek that out. And I think while it's important that we do honor MLK's legacy today and essentially every day, there's so many other people that we need to start talking about too more, because there's so many other figures that have done so much for that cause and for the movement, whether it have been during the actual civil rights movement of you know of the mid 1900s, or if it's what's happening now, because now is also a civil rights movement. And I think you also have to think about the fact that, well, with all the things that happened last year, with all the Black siblings we lost, and all the Black siblings we continue to lose, and will lose in the future, what are we doing to make sure that we know what's going to happen next, right? Because we are on the cusp of what I feel like is going to be a new era. With COVID forcing us in our homes for what's going to end up being about 2 years, and removing Agent Orange from office, that's just the beginning. You know what I mean? And I think a lot about the fact that the insurrection that happened 2 weeks ago, it was wild, man, because this story that I'm kind of working on, on the back burner, something like that actually happens in the plot, and I felt uneasy about that. The fact that something that could happen in fiction is actually happening in the real world. Like what we're living in right now is so much stranger than fiction, and it always has been. And I almost find myself wrestling with just what fiction is too. We started talking about what history means. So like, what is fiction, and who's writing it, and who's telling these stories, and who's being real with us? And that's why I want to make sure we have a real talk segment on this podcast when we can, because we got to keep it real with just like what's going on in the world. So when you look at a day like MLK Day, I think it's so important to think about reflection, to reflect on things, and to really study hard and listen, because we need to prepare ourselves for what's to come next, because I don't think people are going to tolerate what's been happening before, but we also have to know how to not tolerate it. What can we actually do to start making change? And that means for all of us, because I think a lot of people talk about, oh, well, I'm not political. I'm like, well, you are. It's just a matter of what politics affect you and which ones don't. I think for a lot of Black and brown people, there's a lot of politics that affect us, but we don't realize it because we don't hear about it. There's not enough conversation around it. At least when I was coming up, there wasn't. I didn't grow up with the internet at first. I lived in a pretty analog life for a while. When I did get my hands on, the internet, it wasn't anything like what it is today. Any excuse about not being political or just not knowing, it's one thing to not know and to want to know versus not knowing and then not wanting to know. I don't think not wanting to know is valid anymore. And this especially goes out to the white folk listening, all the white questies out there listening to the show. Thank you very much. But also, like, I implore y'all to make change too, because this is on y'all as much as on anybody else, if not definitely more. Because y'all are in the positions of power. Y'all have the power to change. And if anything is going to really change around here, not just America, the whole world. The whole world, Craig. The whole world. What's going to change? How's it going to change? And I'm calling everybody out to just start thinking about what can you do? Because I think not everyone's going to be able to go out and protest, or not everyone can afford to, make donations, or not everyone's able to just speak on their own platform, or, not everyone has the means to articulate what it is that they want to do. Some people don't have the ability to do some of these things, not just emotionally, but physically or what have you. But there are so many ways to do the thing that we need to do collectively. that I think there are ways to look at it as what am I capable of? And I think a lot of our miseducation is at fault here because we haven't been taught how we can make change. We've been taught how to memorize vocabulary words in school, but we're not taught how to do things. You know what I mean? And that especially goes for just I don't know what the education system is like now. I can imagine it's worse, but we got to continue to educate ourselves much better than what we were in the past because it's just not acceptable. It's not good enough. And as a gamer, I saw a lot of influx of big platforms putting Black people on, and that was great. But that lasted for like a month, and then it got quiet again. And honestly, that month was so inspiring for me that it pushed me to finally do SideQuest Enthusiast because y'all, this whole thing has been in the works since 2017. I wanted to do this so long ago. And I didn't do it because I didn't see enough people who looked like me to even know that that's what I needed to see in the first place. But I knew I wanted to do something in video games. I just didn't know what that was. And I'm still figuring that out. I'm still figuring out what SQE is and what it represents and who I want to have on the show and all that stuff. But I'm here and I'm doing it. This is what I can do. But it took me years to think about that. So while I implore you to figure out what it is that you can do, you may not know what that is until 2024. But hey, that's better late than never. And it's not late. Because guess what? You weren't taught. You weren't educated on that. You didn't get to participate in conversations around that. And if you did, and then you chose not to do anything about it, well, here's your chance. It is 2021, y'all. We have to make some significant changes. We have the power. We have the power in numbers. We do. We really do. I really feel that. And we have the power of education and knowledge on our side at this point. And that's only going to keep getting better and stronger. We saw what happened in Georgia. That's power and knowledge, boy. So, on this day, I implore y'all to really, really think about what it means to just make some changes. And whatever it is that you do it well. Just like MLK said in his blueprint speech. You'll love to be a street sweeper and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived the great street sweeper who swept his job well. You know what I mean? Don't think you're so small just because you don't have the power, but you have the power, damn it. And another MLK joint, quote, don't allow anybody to cause you to lose your self-respect to the point that you do not struggle for justice. However young you are, you have a responsibility to seek to make your nation a better nation in which the love you have and the responsibility to make life better for everybody, and you must be involved in the struggle for freedom and justice now. We got to struggle with them with a method that can be militant, but at the same time does not destroy life or property. And so our slogan must not be burn, baby, burn. It must be build, baby, build. Yes, our slogan must be learn, baby, learn, so that we can earn, baby, earn. And with a powerful commitment, I believe that we can transform the dark yesterdays of injustice into brighten tomorrows of justice and humanity. Let us keep going toward the goal of selfhood and the realization of the dream of brotherhood and toward the realization of the dream of understanding, goodwill. Let nobody stop us. And if you can't fly, run. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. End quotes. And it's MLK Day, y'all. So I wish y'all a happy MLK Day. Keep on learning. Keep on doing the thing. I'm Kyle V. Hiller, the host here. You can follow me on Twitter at Kyle Literally. You can follow SQE Cast on Twitter and Instagram. Our website is live, sqecast.com or sidequestenthusiast.com. Both domains work. The stream is live on Twitch, twitch.tv/SQEcast every Wednesday and Friday. We're playing some Smash Brothers, probably some Mario Maker as well. Might do a pop-up stream on Saturday if time is willing. Also, I'm opening up an invitation to all of you to participate in the Smash Bros. Ultimate League. I'm sending out invites for a league of Smash Bros. Where we're going to be playing each other like it's a fantasy basketball. You know what I mean? More details will come on the website later on this week. So look out for that. I'll be posting that on your Twitter and on your Instagram. With that, go play some video games, y'all. Go learn, go educate yourself, and say thank you in advance for what's already yours.